Okay, what's up guys? Starting out a new element that I want to introduce to the channel. Talked about it in other videos, motorcycle movie reviews. You can pretty much guess at what the content about that's going to be. So, not even exaggerating, I've literally seen thousands of movies. I love movies, and Varna, this one's for you, buddy, so you better watch it. Everybody else, you can watch too. So, let's get into it. John Wick, love the movie. Highly suggest you watch it even before I review it. Give a walkthrough all the way to the end, let you know what's up. If you haven't seen it, came out in like 2014, it's almost 5-6 years old. Spoilers contained within. So, John Wick, set in New York. Main protagonist is played by the immortal Keanu Reeves. Pretty much starts off with him beat the shit. He's all jacked up by a pier dock in New York somewhere, and it fades to him looking at a video of his wife on his cell phone and having some memory flashbacks. It's very Tarantino-esque. Like, it starts at the end of the movie and you're trying to figure out what the hell happened. So the video flashback starts, him and his wife having some intimate moments, some mushy husband and wife talk, and then flashes to another scene of her and him walking next to another pier, of course. Then she faints, like, kind of drops. Next scene is pretty much she's in the hospital bed. He's finding out the bad news. She's got some terminal disease. They never say if it's cancer or a tumor or anything like that. They just kind of allude to the fact that she's headed out, and he's pretty sad about it. So, very soon after, of course, she died. He had to, of course, attend the funeral, and everybody else is there. It was a sad scene, and then enter Willem Dafoe. Very good actor. He played the Goblin in Spider-Man. He's most recently, I believe, in Aquaman. Great actor. He's much bigger roles than that, but it's just the last two, and some people might be a lot more familiar with those. So he's at the funeral. John basically says, "What's up, fool? Why you here?" And he just said, "Hey, alluding." It's a lot of foreshadowing in this movie. Basically, hey, they have some type of past relationship. You still don't know who John Wick is or what he does or what he did do. But Willem Dafoe's basically like, "Yo, I'm just here to say, sorry that your wife died, and checking on an old friend." Keanu's like, "Cool, okay." Flash again later. He's back at home. He's in his grieving mode, reading a letter from his wife that he got from a delivery service person who dropped off a dog. So the letter contains a message to John from his wife about how he, had a hard life and all this other stuff, and basically she's leaving him alone, and she just wanted him to have something to remember her by. Here's the dog. John's like, holy shit, breaks down. Eventually, makes a little pallet for the dog and lets the dog sleep in the room, and they have a little, touching moment with the dog just kind of staring at him in the movie. Wakes up the next morning, dog doesn't have any food because he don't have a damn dog. Just got one last night, goes to get the dog some food. Goes about his day, runs into these two group of goons at the gas station. Group of goons. Main goon admires John's car, which is pretty much a badass Mustang. I forget what kind it was, but basically started speaking, I believe, Russian. It could be Slavic, not sure of the language, and they assumed that John Wick had no idea what he was talking about. Basically asked how much the car was worth, what do you want to sell it for. John says not for sale. Dude says some stuff in another language. John responded in the same language, basically saying it ain't for sale, bitch. And the dude had a really crazy look on his face. Goon 2 comes up, pulls Goon 1 off, says have a nice day, sir, see you later. Gives the customary tap the car twice, kind of alluding to the fact that they're going to come and do him some harm later. So John goes to go do some car therapy, does some reckless driving in I don't know if it's abandoned or just open airport. He just goes to let out some frustration, some steam, whipping his badass car around, basically showing you how good he is as a driver and what kind of skill he's got. So you're like, oh, maybe he's a driver. Nah. So fast forward to later that night, dog's losing his shit. John wakes up. Of course, excuse me, masked goons in the house. All black, not black guys, dressed in all black. Basically, crack him over the head. Don't even give him a chance to see what's going on. There's some bums. They jump him. Basically lump him up some. Dude gets pissed at the dog for barking, picks up the dog and basically body slams him. They give John Wick another good kick for measure. knock his ass out, take his keys, steal the car. John wakes up, says what the fuck's going on, sees his dog's all bloody and battered, buries his dog like immediately, and then pretty much that scene ends. Flash to the goons. They have now taken John Wick's car to a chop shop. Enter John Leguizamo. Great actor, very funny comedian, crazy dude. He basically runs this chop shop, who does work for goon number one, Yosef Tarasov's dad, who is Victor Tarasov. He's going to show up later. He's played by a great actor called Michael Nyquist. He unfortunately passed away a couple years ago. He's a really good actor, really good. So basically, John Leguizamo goes, "Yo, what's up with this car? Where'd you get this car?" Guy said, "Yeah, we took it off some loser," basically. And the guy said, John Leguizamo says, "Did you kill him?" Goes, "No, we kicked his ass and killed his dog." So he's like, "Oh, so you kicked his ass and killed his dog?" So basically, he's like, "Get this car out of here. I don't want nothing to do with it." Still not alluding to what John Wick does or who he is. Basically, there's a lot of foreshadowing saying this dude is not somebody to be fucked with. So the little goon, Goon 1, Tarasov Jr., gets pissed and says, "Yo, we own you, bitch." John Leguizamo straight hauls off, cracks him one, and then all his goons pull guns on John, and all John's goons pull guns on them, and or various shop weapons because they're in the chop shop. And he's like, "Take this car out of here or shoot me right now." So they take the car, of course, and then of course Vic, the dad, kid went home and told dad. Dad called John. John goes, "Hey, they stole John Wick's car and killed his dog." Victor straight says, "Oh," and hangs up the phone. John Leguizamo's like, "Well, that's it for that dude." So Goon 1, Tarasov Jr. shows up at Dad's house later. Dad hands him a drink, congratulates him on his journeys. Also enter Dean Winters, crazy dude. He's the guy that plays Mayhem on those Allstate commercials. Dude's funny as shit. Not so funny in this movie, but he has a bit part, and it's awesome. He plays it great. So basically, Dad greets son, gives son a drink, and then punches son straight in the fucking gut. Makes him throw up. It's hilarious. So dude's like, "What? I did what you asked me to do. We ain't had no hiccups." He says, "Not that." It's like, "You stole a guy's car." And he's like, "Yeah, he's just some loser." He's like, "Oh, that loser is John Wick." Then dude's eyes get real big. I was like, "Oh, that's the dude you was talking about, or he's heard about him." Basically alluding to he knows kind of who John Wick was. He's like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" Basically calls him Baba Yaga. Russian, old term used for the boogeyman. And then he goes, "Oh, shit, it's a story. It's the boogeyman." He goes, "Nah, it's not really the boogeyman. He's the guy you send to kill the boogeyman." Basically, now closing the loop on the fact that John Wick is a badass. John Wick is a badass, not a loop. So he's like, "Yo, we gotta make this right. Gotta see what we can do." So he's like, "We just go kick his ass." He said, "Nope, you will do nothing because you can do nothing." Basically telling the son, "You done fucked up, and now we're all screwed." So he goes to open a safe, literally has a handbook with John Wick's number in it, dusts it off, calls him and says, "Hey man, what's up? Sorry about what happened, sorry about your loss, sorry about the wife. Oh yeah, sorry that my son stole your car and killed your dog." He's like, "We can settle this as gentlemen." John Wick hangs up straight off. Like, I don't want to hear it. And that's pretty much the second part of that. So he shows up at John Leguizamo's shop, finds out that, Tarasov's kid did it. That's how John knew which person to be angry at to begin with. Let me stop yapping and pay attention real quick. And John Leguizamo basically gives John Wick a badass SS Camaro to run off and do his dastardly deeds with. So he does all this stuff, goes back to the house, starts cracking off this sledgehammer on the floor, unveiling this big ass cache of weapons and gold coins as the dad is telling the son the story about John Wick's past and him doing all this crazy shit for them and basically laying the foundation on which their whole society lands. Basically, he helped build this and you done pissed him off. And he's basically narrating John Wick's pain as it's flashing back and forth between his story and John cracking his sledgehammer. He has his custom cache of weapons, badass hand cannon, some gold coins and stuff. And then basically, after Victor gets hung up on by John, he knows he's screwed. So what he does is sends a group of hitmen. So Dean Winters, the Allstate guy, was tasked, I don't know if he's a secretary, his lawyer, or what, but he was tasked to send a group, and he says, "How many?" He says, "How many you got?" So he sends them, and they show up at John Wick's house in the middle of the night, of course all dressed in black again, but John Wick's already got his weapons out, he's already prepared, he's already waiting for him, murks all those dudes off, and then all of a sudden, Doom doom. Door rings. Cops. Or single cop. Cop goes, hey John. Also alluding that everybody knows who John Wick is. So the son's pretty much just an idiot for not knowing who this guy is. Cop goes, noise complaint. And then John goes, yeah, noise complaint. And looks over. Cop sees all the dead bodies and looks at John and goes, so you working again? John's like, nah, just tying up some loose ends. And he goes, oh, okay. Well, you have a good night. Cop leaves. Like, I don't want to fuck with John Wick. All of a sudden, John Wick places a phone call. Mortuary Doom guy shows up with a team of his own personal goons, cleanup scene goons, to just get rid of all the bodies, and looks at John and says, hey, you back in business? He goes, have a good evening. Pays the dude off his gold coins, which seems to be underworld currency of some type. And then John pretty much takes off on the adventure to go get Joseph Tarasov. Goes to New York, or farther into New York, to the Continental Hotel, which is owned or operated by I forget the name of his character, but Ian McShane, another great actor, also played Tai Lung in Kung Fu Panda series and was in Hercules. A bunch of other stuff. I think he's in Deadwood. I think he's in American Gods right now. Great actor, awesome, got a good voice. Seems like a really good granddad for some reason. So anywho, he walks up to the front desk and talks to the hotel concierge, but basically tells, hey, glad you're back. Always nice to see you. Goes to get a drink at the hotel bar. Everybody in the bar knows him because he's freaking John Wick. He ends up running by this lady, Perkins. She is also an assassin. She recognizes John, says, hey, you know, niceties ensue. And then Ian McShane pops up and has John have a seat. Basically says, hey, I know the situation. Don't conduct no business on Continental grounds because it's basically illegal. It alludes to the fact that you don't kill nobody there, you get messed up. But it seems that everybody loves John, so Ian McShane tells him to go have a drink. He goes have a drink, basically tips him off to where Tarasov's kid is, so John can go get him. In the meantime, Tarasov is putting out a $2 million hit on John Wick, and then he wants to go enlist Willem Dafoe. Boom, he's back in the story. So now you know Willem Dafoe is a sniper. Used to work with John Wick, they were close, and he alludes to that fact when he asked him for the contract. He asked him, is it exclusive? He goes, no, it's not exclusive. Other people are doing it, but I wanted to come to you first in person. Cool. So he accepted the contract. Willem Dafoe is now trying to kill John Wick. But Perkins is also aware of this fact now, too. And they basically said, you know, you got to take him out. So John Wick, all this stuff is happening pretty much simultaneously. It's flipping back in between what's going on and what's not going on, but it's almost all simultaneously. So John leaves, rolls up to the Red Circle bar where Tarasov's kid is, sneaks up behind the biggest bouncer on the planet. Turns out it's freaking Kevin Nash. He's not playing himself in the movie, he's playing another dude. And John Wick goes, hey, you lost weight? He goes, yeah, about 10 pounds. He goes, yeah, you can have the night off. And the dude turns and says, thank you, Mr. Wick, and then leaves. So John Wick goes on a killing spree, killing off the Goon 1s, second and third goons, in the bathroom to figure out where Goon 1 is. He's in a hot tub somewhere. Watch this dude. Begging his friends to go get him bottles, and then there's a massive goon. I'm gonna call him Goon 4. I'm probably gonna forget this later, but for right now, he's Goon 4. So there's a massive goon that basically is like, I ain't getting you shit. I work for your dad. I'm trying to keep you alive. This dude's a great actor. Always plays a bad guy. Played the bad guy in Atomic Blonde too. So basically, John Wick's killing his way from the basement up, and then he finally gets to where Tarasov's kid is, kills everybody around him, and then Tarasov's kid grabs a gun. John Wick points his gun at him while holding down another goon, and then shoots that goon in the face while still looking at Tarasov's kid. Complete intimidation. Freaking awesome. So Goon 4 ends up figuring out everything's going on, shoots at John Wick. John Wick runs off. Goon 1, Tarasov's kid, gets to run away, runs to a crowded nightclub, and therefore escapes outside. John Wick gets injured in the process because Goon 4 is actually a badass, and they were tussling back and forth. He gets either, I think he got shot or stabbed. Can't remember at this point. But the kid got away. John gets away, goes back to the Hotel Continental. Doctor shows up. Enter the Doctor. The Doctor is the key maker from the Matrix movies. I forget his name, but of course, just like everybody else, I'll post pictures up. Doctor's awesome. Patches him up, says basically, you can do limited movement, but don't go fucking around, right? So John's taking a nap, going to rest up. Perkins is sneaking up on him in his room from the outside. And I've already said you can't do any work on Continental grounds or you're going to get murked off. Well, it turns out Willem Dafoe's on the rooftop across the street somewhere and then misses John Wick. Now, he's a freaking sniper, and from what it seems, they're all world-class assassins, so he didn't miss. Coming out? You're going to let me go? I'm just going to go. He didn't miss. He gave John a warning shot. He shot the pillow next to him. John woke up, rolled off the bed, saw Perkins in the room, starts to handle up on Perkins. Perkins gets him 1 or 2 good licks, but then he knocks her out and ends up beating her down the hallway. And then there's another guy that's working there, pops out of his room and says, "Do I know you?" He says, "I think so." Turns around, looks him in the face. He goes, "Harry?" He goes, "John?" He goes, "Yeah, I need you to watch this broad. Don't kill her, basically catch and release." Lets her, he ties her up and sends him off with this dude so she can babysit him. Goes back to his room, ring, ring, concierge calling. He goes, "Noise complaint?" The concierge goes, "Yes, sir, noise complaint." He said, "I had an unexpected visitor." So there's a running joke about noise complaints in this movie. Freaking awesome, you gotta watch it. It's hard for me to describe the underlying humor in an action movie. So, John basically beats the answer out of her to figure out where the kid is, or how to drag Tarasov out. So Perkins gives him a little information about where Tarasov's stash is, where he's keeping his money, or drugs, or information he's got on people. It's a church. So John leaves Perkins with the other assassin dude. John takes off to go to the church, walks into the church, basically shoots 4 or 5 people, including the pastor or priest, or I don't speak church that well, the main guy. And it turns out these dudes drop to the ground. Priest has got all these tattoos on his arm, and he knows he's a Russian underling for Tarasov, and he's like, "Take me to the vault." Takes John to the vault, and John's like, "Yo, give me the code." Dude's like, "No, Tarasov will kill me." John turns around, shoots like 4 other people that were running up on him, points the gun back at the dude and goes, like, "I'm gonna kill you too, bitch, like, open the door." So he opens the door. Then he goes, "You know who you messing with?" He goes, "Yeah, I do." And then he burns all the money. You thought he was going to take it. He doesn't take it. He burns it all just to get Tarasov to come out. So Tarasov comes out. Of course, John has retreated back to a safe distance. Tarasov comes out, sees the priest, kills him on the spot because obviously he failed him, and he said, "Yeah, Tarasov's going to kill me." He's true to his word. He killed him. And then all of a sudden, John starts laying these dudes out. Rolls up on him, switching between his automatic rifle and his hand cannon. It's pretty freaking sweet. Then Goon 4 shows up again. Goon 4 runs off. You think he's retreating? No, he pulls his car out, goes around behind John, knocks the car into John, and John gets knocked out. Boom, next scene. John's tied up in this factory or warehouse or whatever, and Tarasov's like, still, like, he could have killed him at any time. Tarasov's like, "Still, please, can we work this out?" John's like, nah, I don't want to work it out. And then he goes, "Man, it was just a fucking dog." Pissed John off immediately. He's like, "Look, my wife died. I got out of this game. Your son stole my car and killed my wife's last gift to me as she prepared this as she was on her deathbed." He's like, "Nah, we're not working it out." So Tarasov gets both upset and scared, pops John a couple times in the head with a couple fist punches, and then his goons go to take him out. It's Tarasov and Mayhem dude leave. So, of course, boom, Willem Dafoe's back. Oh, sorry. In between this time where John got captured, Willem Dafoe set up somehow on the rooftop across the street again because he's a sniper. So he takes out one of the goons. I would say Goon 3. So he takes out one of the goons, and then John Wick's able to fight with Goon 4. Like a 2-minute fight scene ensues after this. So these dudes are just beating the crap out of each other. Goon 4 finally dies. John Wick gets out. Still nobody knows Willem Dafoe is involved in this behind the scenes action. Even John don't know. So he gets out, and this is all in the time that these dudes have left the building. Tarasov and Dennis Winter, Mayhem dude, have left the building, gotten in the car, and tried to drive off. So they peel off. Don't really realize that John is chasing them. He runs out, runs around the building, gets to where they're going, starts shooting at them, makes them crash their car, and my phone's ringing. They're interrupting my movie review. So, shoot at the car, crashes the car, kills all the guys except for, I think, Dennis Winter got in somebody else's car. I don't think he was there in that scene. I'm sorry. I misdescribed that scene. So he gets Tarasov by himself, and basically says, hey, it's either you or your son, or you and your son. Basically, Tarasov gives up his own kid and says, hey, if I got your word that you ain't gonna kill me, you can have him. Gives up the location to the kid's safe house. Tarasov, is released to go back to his domicile or wherever. John Wick goes to the safe house. He can speak Russian or Slavic. I'm not sure which language he's speaking. Basically, they're asking all the goons to report in. It's like checkpoint 1, checkpoint 2, checkpoint 3. So John reports in as checkpoint 3 and then starts shooting everybody else. Goes to the warehouse, kills all the goons, of course, and then gets to goon 1, Tarasov's son. And then, of course, the sentence he's about to say, it was just a fucking dog. He didn't even get to say it's just a and John Wick shot his ass. He was like, done. So, now, almost to the end of the movie, almost to the end of the review. Tarasov's son is dead. Tarasov is sitting, sulking in his office, very upset that he gave up his own son. And now the contract has been pulled. That was one of the agreements as well. You're giving a kid safe house, you pull the contract. So contract's been pulled. So now all the assassins have basically been called off of John Wick. And the only reason that Perkins was going to do work in the Continental is because the contract was $2 million. He doubled it to $4 million just for her because she was going to do work on Continental grounds. So contract's called off. John Wick kills Tarasov's son. He goes back to the Continental. He's packing up his stuff, get ready to leave. Concierge gives him a set of car keys. He's got a custom Charger sitting outside for his inconvenience of almost being killed in their hotel. Drives off, and then I'm sorry, before this scene he met with Willem Dafoe at the pier. The contract by this time was already called off, so Willem Dafoe said, sorry for all this shit, you're out of this life now, try to stay out of it. I mean, basically you're not out of it, because this, like I said, this movie has a lot of foreshadowing. One of the things they said before is like, you even step so much as a pinky toe back in here and you're in for good, because he did something crazy to get out of the life, which is also foreshadowed. They never tell you what it was, they just say it was an impossible task. That's brought up in part 2. Next review, we'll talk about that later. So John meets Willem Dafoe at the pier. Willem Dafoe gives him words of advice, but while this is happening, Perkins is still trailing John Wick, even though the contract's done. She's still trailing John Wick just because she's pissed, because she probably just lost out on $4 million. So of course she goes tells Tarasov that, hey, he was having some consorts with Willem Dafoe's character. They meet Willem Dafoe's character at his house, jump him, basically beat the crap out of him while he's on the phone, while Tarasov is on the phone calling John Wick as he's driving away in his Charger. Basically doing the same thing he did with John earlier in the movie, where he foreshadowed or narrated his pain. He's talking on the phone with John Wick. This is all past tense that he's already beat up and killed Willem Dafoe. But he was alluding to the fact, or talking through it, like you got to see the movie, like he's flashing back and forth, he's talking in the past tense, but they're showing present tense clips of him handing up Willem Dafoe. He's dead, pisses John off. John comes back for vengeance. Of course, in the meantime, Perkins has left this area. She's walking through the freaking Central Park or some shit, and like 4 dudes walk up on her. She's stuck. Ian McShane comes out of the shadows, walks right past her and says, hey, Miss Perkins, your tenure or your privileges at the Continental Hotel have been revoked. And then those 4 dudes just shoot her. She lies dead. Perkins is done. So I guess that's what happens when you do work on Continental grounds. So then Ian McShane calls John Wick and says, hey, I know we live by code, so I'm just going to say that I'm not saying that somebody is getting on a helicopter at some helipad right now. John Wick takes off, finds these dudes at whatever known underground helicopter pad this is. There's 2 vehicles. He pushes one off the pier into the, I'd assume it's the ocean, then rams the other one into a blockade. State Farm, or Allstate guy, loses his shit. It's like, give me a gun, because he has not been the manliest character of this entire movie. Runs out, gets the gun from Tarasov before he runs out, shoots at John Wick once, hits the freaking driver's door, and then John Wick immediately just shot him once in the gut, drives up to him, hits him with the car, lets him pass out. So while this is happening, Tarasov is moved into the driver's seat of the once thought to be disabled vehicle, rams John Wick, trying to push him off the pier. Man, I do not like to get away from this dude. Tries to push him off the pier. John Wick jumps out of the back seat through the rear window, and then they chase each other off into the side of the dock. Somehow it starts raining. Don't know why, but it's good for dramatic effect. Tarasov's like, yo, no guns, no bullets, let's do this man to man. So John drops his gun, they start to fight. Tarasov's actually not a bad fighter. They start beating the crap out of each other. Then of course John Wick gets the upper hand, and oh, looky what happens. Tarasov pulls out a switchblade, tries to shank John, and then of course John's like, you know what, I gotta let this guy get in close. Like, John was a badass. I don't know why he did this. Maybe it was just for effect again, but he lets Tarasov stab him just so he can get the knife. Then he takes the knife and then stabs Tarasov, therefore killing him. And then his last words were, see you around, John. And then John said, see you around. Now, it's back at the beginning scene of the movie where John's all busted up and beat up. But he just happens to be busted up and beat up outside of a veterinarian's office. Goes to the vet's office, busts the window, staples his own wounds, and then finds what? Oh, what's up, cell phone guy? That's cool. Finds a beautiful pit bull puppy. I think it's a puppy. It's a large dog. It had traps and like shoulders. Like, the dude works out. Finds this beautiful pit bull, rescues him from the shelter, and then they run off into the night. They left the movie open for a sequel, but they didn't finish the movie as if it was going to have a sequel. The entire movie was a lot of foreshadowing and setup for a possible sequel, I'm sure, if they had enough views, which they did. Therefore, John Wick's 2 and 3. And the only reason I'm reviewing this movie is because I'm obviously going to go see John Wick 3. And yes, it's 5 years too late, but whatever, it's my channel, I'm doing it now. So, thank you guys for watching. I'm sure I missed some things, but you gotta watch the movie. It's an awesome movie. I do recommend it. Check it out if you like action. Not too much gore. It is bloody. If you don't like it, then don't watch it. But if you do favor those types of movies, this one should be on the top of your list to watch if you have not yet watched it. Barna, you better watch this video, and thank you guys, everybody else, for watching. Catch you later.